Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Price of Success podcast. I'm your host, Chris Farrell. Listen, in today's episode, we're talking about what it really costs to win. And Dan Henderson has built and sold thriving fitness businesses. He's become a global speaker. He's coached hundreds of gym owners, but he will tell you it is not about tactics. And that's not what got him here. It's been years of working through the head trash, the identity shifts, the burnout, and the brutal honesty with himself. If you've ever wondered what separates the successful from the stuck, this episode's for you. Welcome to The Price of Success, the podcast where we tell the whole truth about what it costs to build the business and life God created you for. We're here to remind you that conditions are never perfect. Success always comes with a price, and you're not the only one paying it. Let's get started. Okay, so the reason I wanted to have you on the podcast, Dan, is because back in 2016 in Las Vegas, saw you speak at IdeaFit. And dude, it wasn't just about fitness, business, and tactics. It was, you were answering questions that were in between my ears. Like you were real, you were raw. And so I'm honored to have you on the podcast. So thank you for coming on.
Absolute pleasure. I'm excited and I'm glad that our interaction had an impact for you on that day as well.
Well, definitely. It definitely did. And so many people that have come on the podcast know I like depth. I want to unpack your journey and really understand how you got to where you have gotten in what you're doing now with Fitness Profit and the Profit Made Simple podcast. Like there's so many cool things you're doing, man. But what I know of you is that you've built thriving gyms, you frequently hold large events, and you rock the stage all the time, man. I mean, you've helped people win just like you've won in the past. But what I know to be true about successful people, Dan, is that successful people don't just roll out of bed successful, right? And so I'd really love to know, man, who was Dan Henderson before he found his path doing what he's doing now?
Yeah, look, for me, business has been the ultimate teacher in life. And I always wanted to win, but I didn't realize how badly I wanted to win until I actually ventured into the game of entrepreneurship. And I started my first personal training studio, almost really learned so much about myself. I just didn't have the same self-awareness. I had a desire, but I didn't understand my strengths, my weaknesses, my limiting beliefs. I didn't understand the narrative that I was telling myself. And so it was through business that it really shined a light and just went, all right, you want to win, Dan, but that's not enough. You've got to understand yourself a lot better. You've got to understand the game of business a lot better. And that is really where it was uncovered for me. And, you know, I look back, I was always competitive at sport, but I didn't have a killer instinct. I look back, I always liked my academics, but I didn't have a killer instinct. It wasn't until I started learning business that I'd started to develop the killer instinct because I started to understand myself. And that was the big shift and change. And it was because I got put on my ass. That's why it happened. In the first 3 years, running my own business, I didn't know my ass from my elbow. And so my response was just work harder, because that was my response to everything. Just try harder, work harder. And that wasn't getting me very far. Where that was getting me to was a place where I wasn't sleeping much, really suffering like hell. I was not enjoying it, and it's not why I got into it. I got into it because I was passionate about health and fitness, and that was starting to dissipate. And I knew there had to be a better way. It's like, cool, like you've got the hunger, but now you've got the hard ethic, but that's not enough in this game of entrepreneurship. That's not enough in business. And so that's where, you know, the shift for me started to really get underway.
Let me ask you this. Everybody has that origin story of their first gym where they had the choice to go from I'm working for somebody to like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the jump. What's your origin story of that?
Yeah, so I was not long out of university. I did an honors degree in human movement. I went into a corporate job, and it was a great job. It was a sportswear company. They were doing licensed apparel. And so I was working with professional rugby teams over here in Australia and organizing all their merchandise runs and everything else. But I loved helping people through movement. I always loved exercising. I loved going to the gym. I loved sport. I was playing plenty of it myself. And so I was doing PT out the back of my car. And I was doing probably 5 to 10 sessions whilst I had this corporate job, before work, after work, on weekends, whenever, however I could. And after I was doing that for a while, I just went, you know what? I'm getting a lot more fulfillment and joy from doing this than I am my job. Like this lights me up. I also liked the autonomy that I had, even though it was only remote personal training. I was getting to design my own future. I was an architect of what I wanted my work to look like. And that really drew me. So after 2.5 years of kind of juggling both, I found this tiny, tiny little personal training studio right where I live in Sydney's Eastern Beaches. Listeners might be familiar with Bondi Beach. So right near Bondi Beach. And I went, you know what? I'm going to do something here. I'm going to open my first studio. I'm going to make it more professional than the industry's ever seen before. It was still not super professional in many ways. And that's when I cut the cord, exited the security, the certainty of that full-time salary and wage, and went into the unknown. That was my first business.
I'm going to ask you an interesting question, because I've had some conversations with people lately who are fairly wealthy and they have kids. And they've had conversations with me like, hey, Chris, you used to own a gym, and it seems like you've been successful in some of the things you've touched. Like, do you have any advice for my kids? And a lot of the advice I give these parents is, I'm like, kill the safety net. Because I can't think of a time I've been successful when I had a safety net under me. Have you ever been successful where you've had a fail-safe plan? Or is this something where you think people should just go all in? Like, hey, I'm passionate, I'm jumping, I'm making the leap. What do you think?
So I think it depends on the individual. And then the second part that it depends on is their stage of life. And so it was easy for me to go all in because I didn't have any kids at that point in time. And my partner at the time had a job. And so there was already like a relative level of security, and had to, do minimal in the way in terms of provision. Right. So at that stage of life, it was a stage of life where I could take that risk and the ramifications were not that significant. Now, have I become more cautious now that I have 3 kids? I have, millions and millions of dollars in debt and mortgages and the like. Absolutely. So that has shifted and that has changed. So I think that is one element. It's not to say that you can't take risks later on. I just think there's like practicalities that need to be calculated a little bit more. There was no calculations. I just felt passionate. I felt hunger. Yeah. I felt the desire, and then I went and did it. It also depends on the individual. So I can't give a blanket piece of advice and go, just burn the boats and go and do it, because that's going to work for some people. That's going to, absolutely that's going to work. I've sold businesses and it has meant that I've had to rebuild or start a new business relatively quickly. And burning the boat has been like one of the best things I ever could have done. It really fast-tracked my action. It created a sense of urgency. But for some people, that can paralyze them. And then it just becomes all about, all right, let's just say they quit a corporate job let's start a fitness business. They become very desperate. All right, I've got to get this next client. I've got to get the next one. I've got to get the next one. And it becomes stressful. It becomes overwhelming. It provokes anxiety. They start to almost have like a desperation around the growth of the business itself. And so in those cases, when I'm working with people like that, I'm like, you know what? We can find you a job which is 1 to 2 days a week, which just gives you enough money to pay your rent, maybe put a little food on the table, not much more than that, but at least you've kind of got that looked after. So we can do this from the right energetic place, the right intentional space. And you're going to, and as we build, we'll be able to remove that work. So they would be the two things it depends upon, stage of life and also the person itself. I don't mind risk. I wouldn't say I'm a huge risk taker, but when I look back retrospectively, I've sold really profitable businesses, and then I've always known what I was going to do next, but I still had to prove it. So from that respect, I've taken risks. It served me. I like it. It actually works for me, but not everybody is the same. And so what I've learned in 7 years of coaching and coaching business owners is You can't just give a blanket piece of advice. You've got to coach the person in front of you. They are a unique set of beliefs, experiences, and needs. And so it depends.
No, I think that's good. I'm the burn the boats guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, most people who would have 6 kids on a single income would be, right? So I tend to be the burn the boats guy in many respects. And actually, Dan, when I started my gym, I was working for a corporate company, and I had a lady who her dad owned a company who was working with me that I got from that company. And she said, "Hey, would you like to do a corporate deal with my dad's company?" I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." Because she'd been wanting to build some type of a group. I said, "Yeah, that's great." So I went and I rented space at a separate gym while I was working at this gym. And it was a hospital-based gym, so kind of higher up, right? So I start working over there, and my gym finds out about it, and they bring me in the boardroom one day. Like, it was like a big deal. And they're like, "Chris, are you doing this?" I was like, "Well, yeah. I didn't know you owned every relationship, right?" And, and they literally they literally said, "Okay, you have 24 hours to decide whether you're giving us the corporate deal or you're going to resign." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And dude, we just brought my wife home from work, single income. We just had our first baby.
Oh, wow.
And I'm calling my family. My family's like, "Chris, live to fight another day, dude. Like, this is way too extreme." And I jumped and I built the business at the top floor of a church. It's
Wow.
crazy, man. It
Yeah,
was wild. Dude, it was wild. Now, not everybody's like me.
that's right.
Okay. But I will say, I'd love to know from you what separates the people who step up and make it work and actually take the risk from those who hesitate and just stop.
I love this question. And there has been certain business owners. I've had the great opportunity of working with about 500 different business owners, a lot in the fitness industry, but not exclusively. And those that make it work, there's a few key attributes and traits that they have. Number one is their self-belief. They just have this unyielding self-belief. They look in the mirror and they don't have the hesitation. They don't have the doubt. They don't have the fear. They just look in the mirror and they go, "We're going to do this." And yeah, there's obstacles and challenges. The path is not always smooth, but they are unwavering. They have this just incredible self-belief that they will resolve it. And quite often, it's not misplaced. It's true. So that's the first key attribute that they have. The second key attribute that they have is they take personal responsibility. And so they don't look for excuses. They don't adopt a victim mindset. Yeah, maybe there's some issues with the local council. Maybe there's, some problems with zoning or whatever else. Maybe there's a problem with the construction and the fit out. They could easily use that as an excuse. Most people would. They don't. All right. They just take responsibility for it. They go, "Yep, I could have foreseen that. That could have been done in the preparation. That's not going to change what I'm going to do. It just means it's going to shorten our time frame. It means I need to have a bigger launch. It means I need to be a little bit more aggressive in my marketing." So that's the second attribute they have. They have the self-belief. They have the personal responsibility. Number 3 is they follow the plan and they understand what they don't know. And that's why they seek someone out like me who's helped people open more facilities than anyone else I know. And they're like, "Cool, I don't know what I don't know, but you do, Dan, and I'm going to take that on board. I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to be growth minded. I'm going to adopt what you say, and I'm going to execute it exactly the way you say. I'm not going to pretend that I'm smarter than you, more experienced than you. I'm going to take what you give me, and I'm going to roll with that." And that's absolutely integral that they do so. And then the fourth attribute, and it's very closely interrelated, is they have emotional resilience. And they have this bounce back ability. It's not that everybody has the same level of stress and challenges and obstacles and shit hitting the fan. It's just that these guys don't let the pendulum swing so significantly, right? Like, yeah, we're in ebbs and flows, but their ebb is just a lot smaller and a lot shorter. They get themselves out of that. There's no self-pity. There's no blame games. They're just like, they pick themselves off. They dust themselves off. And they get back to work and they get back to doing what needs to be done. So their resilience is super high level. So they would be the four main attributes of those that can do it successfully. And, it's an honor to work with these people because they actually make it easy.
That's really good, man. I see some of those in me, but then others no, just because I guess I'm a little more of a psycho. But someone like you who have actually worked with the people, obviously you have a nice system of seeing those people. Now, I have a question. Me and you were talking earlier about Craig Ballantyne and Daniel Woodrum and this new book coming out, The Dark Side of Discipline. Have you gotten a chance to read it, by the way?
I have not, which hopefully
Okay.
Craig doesn't hear this because he will not like me saying that. He's a great friend and colleague of mine, but it's definitely on the pile of books I need to read.
Well, so here's the thing. It's only about a 3-hour read.
Okay.
And the best way I can describe it is it's like Atomic Habits, except for you don't have to reread the page because you've read Atomic Habits.
Oh yeah, many times.
Yeah.
A classic piece of work.
So
like clear.
It's amazing, but it's almost like there's no way Atomic Habits is written in anything under 10th grade language, right? This is more like 6th, maybe 5th or 6th grade language, which is really easy to retain. So really quick read, but there's something in it. And I know you'll probably bring it up on your show, but in the book, he says personal trainers with 8% body fat and 8% in their bank accounts spend 2 hours a day in the gym, but no time working on building their business or sales skills. So they stay broke. How does that land for you?
It's very well said. I mean, Craig and Daniel both have a background in the fitness industry. They've both owned studios. They owned a studio together, and I think we lean towards those things that are familiar, right? Like as human beings, we crave certainty. We want to move and understand things that we know. And so what they know is they know how to look good. They know how to do their macros. They know how to do their body part splits. But getting in a room or getting in a place where you're uncomfortable and having to learn business skills, that's like a smack in the face for a lot of these people. And so they just keep, being drawn to their comfort zone. And if only they applied the same level of discipline, intention, focus into their business, man, they would be unstoppable. It's way harder to get a 6-pack or 8% body fat than it is to build $1 million business. Way harder, right? There's way more sweat and tears and organization. Like, yeah, you've got to be far more disciplined and consistent and just, have a ton of self-control. Yet they know that space, and there's sometimes a reluctance, a refusal to challenge themselves from a business setting. And it's why too many of them, great people, great coaches, are broke.
It's very true. Now, I don't want to gloss over the fact that you've built successful businesses. And so I know you're open and real and raw about things. Help me out with the evolution of your business. Before you even built what you have now, what's the head trash for you that you had to overcome to get to where you are now?
Still overcome. Like there's so much inner self-talk, which you've just got to check yourself at, right? Like I'm the worst friend in the world to myself in some of the things that I say. And I have to catch myself on a consistent basis. This is 2 decades in, right? So the box of birds is busy. The head is very noisy. But, a lot of the talk is, wouldn't it just be easier to go and get a job? It's like I come back to that 2 decades in and having built multiple successful businesses and had some exits. It's just like, oh, man, wouldn't it just be less stressful? Wouldn't it just be easier? Wouldn't it just be just more consistent, just getting a paycheck every single week without having to, have all these worries? So I'll often have to check myself for that. I lose context a lot of the time. I'll make things a lot harder than what they need to be. A lot of my self-talk around money has been huge that I've had to work out. Like, you're being greedy now, Dan. Like, you don't need to make this much money. Yeah, so I've had to really do a lot of work on that self-talk. You saw me present in the States. And before that, it was like, who are you to present? Like, who's this? Like, what have you done? Like, you're just a little Aussie out of nowhere. So there's always self-talk. It's what you do with that self-talk. It's how you navigate it. It's what it's trying to tell you. That's the key. And like, I'll give an example, right? I just talked to you about money before. Is like, all right, well, I had some pretty shit money beliefs. And where did those beliefs come from? Those beliefs came from two places. They came from my family, because that was very working class, and that's the way that they talked about money. And then it came back from bad theology. And so the combination of those two growing up meant that I had some really negative head noise that needed to be rectified, that I needed to replace if I was going to have any kind of successful business career.
Interesting. So bad theology, as in like the love of money, and
Yeah.
you just felt like that was not good for you. Like
Yeah, that's
you were
right.
going to turn
Yeah.
into
You know,
sinful, awful human.
correct. You know, like
Okay.
just taking things out of context. Money is the root of all evil. And, you know, like you got to be tithing more if you make this. And, right, that plays out, you know, because all of a sudden you're not charging what you should. You're giving away a lot of the money as soon as you make it. You're giving away a lot of your time. And so if you don't address that self-talk, then it's going to manifest itself into actions. And those actions are not going to be good ones.
No, fair enough. Now, you talk about, so how many times have you spoken at Idea Fit?
Two. So we first one
Two
was in
times.
Vegas, and then we did San Diego the year after.
Okay. Now, how do you pull that off?
In a little delusional helps. So you know, at the time, I had an education company. It was called the Functional Training Institute, and we were writing certified functional training courses for personal trainers, for gyms, and we were getting some real traction with that. People were watching our YouTube. People were asking us to speak. So I was speaking in a lot of places around the world, particularly in Southeast Asia. So it was primarily Southeast Asia. And when I saw that the biggest conference in the world for personal trainers was IDEA, I was like, well, I'll throw my hat in the ring. Like, I feel like I've got something to offer. I was never short on confidence. And so I just sorted out. I think the first time I was unsuccessful and I didn't get into the conference itself. Second year, I was extremely grateful and humbled to get into the conference. And we had just an epic response. Like, it was amazing. It was absolutely phenomenal. I did a combination of technical and business sessions, and that gave me a lot of confidence. The year after, I obviously applied again and was successful. I haven't applied since, just because I've had different focuses and different priorities. But for me, and I'll go back a little bit, is I attended my first, I was doing some speaking already, but it was on a pretty low level. And I attended the Asia Fitness Conference in Bangkok. And I attended there as an attendee. And I was looking at the speaker and I was listening to his message, his delivery, and he was good. And I was like, you know what, Dan, you're just every bit as good. You can do this. You will do this. And so I went up to the organizer and I just said, hey, like, this is who I am. I'm going to speak for you next year. You're going to see my application. And she remembers that clearly, Suzanne. She was a lovely lady. And I applied and I got in successfully. And that was kind of the catalyst for me. It was like, hey, you're as good as anybody once you jump up on that stage. You got a message to share. You got plenty of passion. You're pretty raw. So I had unwavering confidence and to just keep throwing my hat in the ring. And they said, no, that's all right. I'll throw it in again and again and again. And they'll say yes.
Yeah, man. No, that's so cool because yes, your session was phenomenal, and I'm glad that there was a good response from that, man. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the world shutdown and how you navigate that with your particular business. Like, how did you? I mean, was that like the toughest season you've ever been through?
Yeah, and your listeners may not be aware of this, but Australia was strict. Like, we were incredibly harsh with our lockdowns. And so it meant a lot of isolation for very long periods of time. So we were one of the harshest countries in the world when it came to the isolation, the lack of movement that you could have. And so, I think I went through stages. I think a lot of business owners did. The first stage was just the holy hell. Like, I'm in some trouble here. I'm in a world of trouble here. And I remember going home, and I remember crawling onto the bed of my partner, and she goes, "You've got this." She goes, "Don't give up on us. You've got this." And that was kind of the word that I needed. I remember it clear as day. Like, I can still see it. And she was right. I did have it, but I at the time I was doubting. I was like, we were, we were traveling, delivering workshops all around the world. That was no longer going to happen. I owned a gym that was no longer going to be operational. So I had multiple businesses that the way that we delivered our services, that wasn't going to happen any longer. And so I had that doubt. The doubt didn't last long, thanks to my partner and her words. And then I just went, all right, well, there's some opportunities here. All right, we've got some online education. So let's really, like, a lot of people have a lot of time right now. Let's double down on our online education. And we ended up having, about 2 months after lockdown, and this business at the time was 9 years old, we ended up having our highest grossing month in history. That was 2 months into lockdown. So we went really hard with the
Wow.
marketing. Our online education just went to another level. So that was pretty phenomenal. That was great to see. And then the second thing was, I had a community of business owners at that time. It wasn't as big as it is now, but I had a community of business owners, and they needed support, they needed leadership, they needed clarity, and so I was that voice that they needed. And I just really saw it as my duty to lead the people through this. This is the hardest thing that they're ever going to go through, from a business perspective in their life. Emotionally, it was like brutal on a lot of people as well. And I was like, they need certainty right now. They need strength. And that's who you're going to be during this moment. And then kind of happened in a broader industry perspective as well. I just saw that a lot of people were panicking, particularly here in Australia, and with good reason. They didn't know what they didn't know. Nothing like this had ever confronted them. And so they didn't know how to deliver services. They didn't know how to make money. They didn't know anything. And so I just started giving them solutions and a pathway. And I remember I had a public Facebook group, and I'd just go live in there, and I was like, hey, this is how you deliver your services. This is how you charge. This is how you use Zoom sessions. This is how you use this piece of technology. And people were just so grateful and thankful, and we were getting massive turnouts for that. So, whilst it was a obviously stressful period I'd never hope for ever again, I'm actually really thankful for it. Like, I learned, again, a lot about myself. I learned a lot about people in that. I learned what it means to be a leader. And I still have people thank me for that period. They're just like, Dan, you saved my business during that period, but more than that, you helped me. You saved me during that period. And I don't say that to boast or anything like that. But
Yeah.
for me, I was just grateful for the opportunity. It was a period of great enlightenment, learning, and some wonderful introspection.
Good on you, man. I mean, I know a lot of people just fell flat on their face. And how old were your kids during that time?
So what do we? So I had a 1-year-old, a 5-year-old, and then like a 10-year-old at the time. Yeah,
Dude.
yeah,
See, man, like that's and you don't know what's happening, right? Like everything around you's crumbling. Like you said, Australia has incredibly strict rules and lockdowns and things. And then I'm sure you had people coming to you like, Dan, we're all screwed. And you're like, no, 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 we're fine. Meanwhile, you're like, we are screwed. And your wife's helping you. Like, bro, that's so real.
it is, and
Oh
it was
my
changing all
gosh,
the
man.
time. I think that was the biggest thing is our government would change the rule. Hey, we're opening on this date. No, we're
Mm,
not. We're opening on this date. We're open for
yeah.
a week, and then we're closing again. And so it just would change. And the emotional roller coaster was a lot for people as well. I would say in some areas of Australia, and I'm going to say Melbourne in particular right now, it's like they've got PTSD because they had, I think, 9 opening and closes. So they thought, here we are, I'm opening my gym again. They'll
Oh,
do a big
man.
open, and then they would have to close again. And
Imagine.
yeah, the emotional toll of that is still being played out today. Uh,
Ooh,
but yeah, for me, I just saw it as, hey, these people need some strength, and you got some, so you let's go and give it to them. And I've always been pretty solution focused. Whatever the problem, whatever the challenge is, I'll identify the solution.
yeah. Where does that come from? Were you like that as a kid? Is that something you just developed over
I
time?
think it just developed over time. Yeah, I do. I just, when I look back, particularly in business, I've been able to see the challenge before it happens. I've been able to see the solution that's necessary. And I think it comes from a couple of places. Number one is giving myself appropriate time to think. So making sure I have some white space and actually enabling me to join some of those dots. Number two, I've always been, and this is just innate, I'm a super positive, glass half full guy. So I'm like, man, there's a way out that's going to be better than this. And I genuinely believe that. And I think it's just a combination of those two things.
How do you navigate a big family, a profitable business, and do it without your family suffering?
The number one answer is structure. Like is a structure, and then I'd follow that up, which is very, they're interrelated, is communication. So right now is like your business can run your life if you let it run your life. If you don't have particular structure in place, then it's going to bleed, right? Like you're going to be checking emails, checking phone during swimming lessons, basketball games, dance recitals. You're going to travel to conferences and miss key dates. You're going to let work blow out and not have date nights. So the first thing for me, which is really important, is I need structure. And so I will set my week up. And this is something I learned from Craig Ballantyne. He really installed this into me. Is like, Dan, what are the most important things to you in life? And I'm like, well, my family's right there. And he's like, well, they need to be reflected first in your schedule. And you need to have just boundaries around that time that is just is never broken. So that would be the first part of it. The second part is communication. There's so many moving pieces. I mean, I've got 3 kids, you got 6, so you only know this too well. But there's so many extracurricular activities. There's so many extra meetings at school and doctors and everything else, and so we just need to be on the same page. It's like, all right, this is what's coming up this week. We always sit down on a weekend. We sat down yesterday, and we went, all right, what's coming up this week? What's a little outside of the norm? All right, this is what's coming up. You've got this covered whilst I do this. And the combination of the structure and the communication make it possible. Does it mean that things still slip through? Absolutely, but it makes it a whole lot better. And, it makes me more effective at work as well. I mean, that's the biggest thing is like if I know, like tonight, I've got until 6 p.m. I'm going to work my absolute tail off because when it comes 6 p.m., I want to be downstairs. I'm making tie-dye T-shirts with my little one right now. I want to be helping my partner cook and clean up the kitchen. And so I've got to be more effective. I've got to be more efficient with the time that I have.
That's good. That's good. Do your kids have a good relationship with you being an entrepreneur? And have there been seasons where they didn't and you've learned lessons on how to shift that if so?
I don't think they completely comprehend. So
Okay.
my daughter is always very funny. She's like, "Are you going on holidays?" Every time I board a plane, she's sick. She's the youngest, and I'm like, "You just think I have a whole bunch of holidays, don't you?" Because I've been traveling interstate a lot. She's like, "You going on holidays again?" I'm like, "It's not holidays," but she doesn't quite understand it. So I find that funny. The second
Yeah.
part is, like I think they appreciate that we work hard for them. My partner and we work hard for them, and they've been able to experience a lot of things that I didn't at the same age. My son, he's a little older. He's 10, and he sees me working hard, and I really model that to him. I'm like, I'm working hard because I want to build a better future, not just for me, but more importantly for you as well. And this is what it involves. And so he understands that by me working hard, by me taking control of my own destiny, by being self-employed, by being an entrepreneur, that's how we do so. And he appreciates that. He does. And again, it's just communicating. It means sometimes I got to work weekends and I'm like, hey buddy, I'll take you out for basketball, but right now I got to do 2 hours of work. As soon as I do that, I'm going to take you out. And so I think they see the fruits of it. They see the benefits. And for me, it's just explaining why we do what we do and helping them kind of join the dots together. I wasn't aware of it at the time, but my parents were self-employed. I obviously, mirrored a lot of what they ended up doing. I ended up through osmosis kind of learning what they did and why they did it. And so I want to make sure that I'm modeling the right things to my kids.
Yeah. Here's a question I like to ask. And we can wrap this up in a couple questions. I know we had about 45 minutes.
Perfect.
So what is the price of success? What does the price of success mean to you?
Price of success involves a few different areas. Number one, it's a commitment to always endeavoring to better yourself. And that commitment is going to take forms in many different ways. For me, I'll travel the world, and I'll travel the world to learn from some of the best minds, best thought leaders that I can. I will not go out with friends at times. I will not go to certain social situations out of obligation. I will read a book or listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video instead of watching a Netflix show. I will learn rather than scroll on social media. So it's a lifelong commitment to improvement and to betterment and to learning. It means sacrificing certain things, but ultimately they're not that important to me. What is more important is the growth of myself. And if I know if I grow, then the outcome of my growth will be the business growth.
I love that, man. I love that. That's really good. A lifetime commitment.
Lifetime.
Coming
I
in.
want to be, and I
Like
know
it.
I will. Like, I'm 42 now, and I'm hungrier to learn and grow more than ever. And it's not for the money. That's just the byproduct, right? It's just because I know I can be a better version of myself. I know I can show up and be a better partner, a better dad, a better leader for my team, a better entrepreneur, a better thinker, a better innovator, a better salesperson, a better marketer. And so I owe it to myself, and I owe it to all the people around me to become that person.
It's really good, Dan. I love that, man.
Thank you.
Solid. Dude, where can people find you? Where do you want to send them? And I know you have Profit Made Simple, the podcast that people can head over and check out. And then you are the founder of Fitness Profit. But where can people find out more about you and follow you and all the things?
Yeah, like if you want to listen to me interview some amazing people or do some solo podcasts, check it out. Profit Made Simple. We're just over 1 year in. I'm super proud of it. Amazing conversations, and I get to. It's a great vehicle for me to share my journey and my lessons. I'm relatively active on Instagram at Coach Dan Henderson, so you can check me out there. If you can find me on Facebook, you can find me through probably Instagram. I share a little bit more on Facebook still. It was always my preferred platform. I like longer form written content, and it just is a better vehicle for that as well. So, yeah, they're going to be the main places.
Excellent, Dan. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast today, man. It was a blast.
And man, absolute pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope the listeners were able to gain some insight and lessons to help them. And thank you very much, Chris. It's been great to be reconnected.
Most definitely, man.